All right, I'm gonna try to do way more than is possible in this time slot, so bear with me. Hopefully, we can get it all done. And I'm gonna kind of like talk my way through this while I'm making it. But my name is Alon Shaya. I was born in Israel, grew up in Philadelphia, been living in New Orleans for about 17 years, and I cook Israeli food in New Orleans and also in Denver. We have a restaurant called Saba in New Orleans and a restaurant called Safta in Denver. So, uh, an Israeli guy living in New Orleans cooking Israeli food, it surprisingly, like, people are into it. I thought that people would be weird about it, but we are doing well, and I get to make wood-fired pita bread and hummus at the restaurant, and we have a great team that we work with. And of course, Israeli food, as many of you guys know, is a combination of a lot of different ingredients and a lot of different cultures. And I am going to be featuring a dish today called paprikash. Anybody new to paprikash? Has anyone not had paprikash before? Okay, good. So paprikash is a dish that comes from Hungary, and my father was born in Romania, right on the border of Romania and Hungary. So I used to cook when I was much younger all the time at my house with my family, and one thing that I never really got a chance to do was cook with my dad much. I cooked with my mom and I cooked with my grandmother. So I would make like dishes like Bulgarian dishes and a lot of Israeli-focused dishes. But with my dad, the only time we would cook together is when we would go fishing. And he would take me to Atlantic City, and we would rent this little like 8-foot boat with a motor that probably couldn't get your hair dry in the morning. And we would just kind of like scoot around the marsh and catch all these little fish. And we would take them home. And, well, during the fishing trips, my dad would pack these turkey sandwiches in a cooler, and they would be like floating around in ice and water. And so, like, in the middle of the fishing trip, usually when the tide went down and we got stuck in the mud, and that's when all the fish would be flapping around, and we would just kind of like pick them up with a net and throw them in the boat. It wasn't like, this wasn't deep sea fishing, all right? Most of the time we were waiting for the tide to come up so we could actually make it home that day. And so we would eat these really soggy turkey sandwiches in the middle of the day with the hot sun beating down on us while we were sitting in a ton of mud. And I remember like there were the kind of turkey sandwiches that were so like soggy that they would like stick to the roof of your mouth. And so I'd have to like get in there with my finger and get the turkey sandwich off the top of my mouth. But my fingers like had all this like fish and mud on them from where we were. So it was never like a really good culinary trip for me. And I was really into food. Like this was when I was like 8, 9 years old. I was already thinking about food all the time and cooking food all the time with my mother and my grandmother. And so after these fishing trips, we'd come back and, you know, I finally got that turkey sandwich removed from the roof of my mouth, and we were at the house and we'd fry up these fish in a little bit of flour, and we'd dust them in flour and put a little salt on them and fry them up in butter with chopped parsley and squeeze lemon over them. And that moment was actually this incredible like revelation for me, because I'm sitting there like picking fish off the bone and they're really delicious. And I remember that as being the most kind of food-focused time with my dad growing up. But he would talk about food all the time, and he would talk about the food of Hungary and Romania. And one dish he would talk about all the time is paprikash. So I never got a chance to make this with him, but I started making it later on in life, and it's become one of my favorite dishes. So paprikash essentially is like a Hungarian curry with dumplings, curry and dumplings. Now I got everyone's attention, right? Everyone loves curry and dumplings. So that's essentially what we're making. So what I've done is I've taken some butter and olive oil, and I'm sauteing some onions here with garlic. I have chopped ginger that I'm going to put in there. I have sweet paprika, and I have smoked paprika. You can't spell paprikash without paprika, so you got to have paprika. I have some of these chilies here, these chili d'arboles. They're just kind of like dry, and I crush them up and let those seeds come out of them. You guys can tell this is going to be a spicy dish, right? Like the one thing that my dad's kind of like, the guy, he really wants you to feel bad for him all the time, so he tells these stories about like growing up in Hungary and how he would have to sleep on this like blanket on the floor and how it would be like minus 30 degrees outside, and he'd have a cup of water on his bedside table, and he'd wake up in the morning, it would be frozen solid. And he would do all this just so you would feel bad for him. And but he would talk all the time about how cold Hungary was and how he like hated waking up to frozen water next to his bed. And so he would talk about like the foods that they would eat would be these like rich sausage focused foods, these really like thick stews, and paprikash is one of those dishes that really get like it really sticks to your ribs in a good way. It's warm, it's comforting. Did anybody get a chance to try it during the tasting event? A couple of people. So it's something that really kind of sticks with you, and that's what I like about it. All right, so I've added the smoked and the sweet paprika and the chilies. You see we have like a lot of different chili flavor going on right now, right? We're creating these layers of flavor. I have some tomato paste here. I'm a huge tomato paste kind of guy. I love tomato paste. I use a lot of tomato paste. Does anyone here use a ton of tomato paste in their cooking? My wife, Emily, that's just because we share a kitchen together. And I'm usually the one, she opens the cans for me, but I'll cook with it. I feel like tomato paste is like the most underrated ingredient in everyone's pantry. We've all been there, right? We've all had that like tube sitting in the side of the refrigerator door behind like some weird mustard that you got on a trip that you never used. And I just put like a couple tablespoons in here, but you could put a lot more. Can you guys smell that at all? It's kind of like this roasted chili in butter. The butter's browning, the tomato paste is caramelizing. All these good things are happening. I'm going to take some flour, and I'm just going to dust some flour in there and kind of combine that so I get this little roux going on. Is there a camera up here? You guys can see that? Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. It looks pretty good from here. All right, good. So I've added the flour. I'm now going to add some chicken stock. I'm going to let that come up to a simmer.
Chef, question for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of your cuisine kind of pulls from different areas and influences. Is this a traditional paprikash, or have you kind of put your own spin on it?
Well, I would say that this is, there is a lot of paprikash recipes, and I think that everyone has that kind of their own little take on it, right? So depending on what household you're in or who's making it or what the family recipe is, there's a lot of different ways you can use pepper, right? Like black pepper. I saw black pepper around here somewhere before. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to put black pepper in here. I wasn't even planning on doing that, but I just did. And that's because, why not? It's here, it's pepper, it's a different kind of pepper, and so use like whatever you have, right? Put some fresh peppers in there, some jalapenos if you want, some Tabasco peppers. Speaking of Tabasco and peppers, we're going to put some Tabasco in here too. And before you guys all showed up, I removed this little plastic thing off the Tabasco top bottle because I feel like it gets in the way. Because I like to add a lot of Tabasco. Oh yeah. So we add some Tabasco, a couple dashes or so, and that becomes like the acid for the dish. I haven't added anything yet that would bring acidity to the dish. And so I use Tabasco really not just for heat, but also for acid. And I also just really enjoy the flavor of it. I've gotten a chance to spend some time on Avery Island where Tabasco is made, and it's the real deal. Like, there are wooden whiskey barrels filled with pepper mash that age for 3 years in like this big barn that has no refrigeration. And so all of the salt that they use to season it with comes from a mine underneath the ground. It's the only hill in Louisiana, Avery Island, and it's because it's on a salt mine. So I think it's one of the best products, and I really do love the authenticity of it and the way that it's been made the same way for decades and decades. So I haven't added any acid other than the Tabasco, but I've been holding this lemon the whole time, and you guys you're about to add that, right? But only the zest, because I feel that the zest really gives it this great floral flavor to it, and doesn't necessarily add acid, but it adds this beautiful lemon flavor. All right, so now that's going to come up to a simmer. I have some charred broccoli here, but you know what? You could use like anything you want. I like broccoli because I feel like it really kind of soaks up all the gravy. And I'm going to pop that in there and let that start to simmer. I have some sausage. You can use whatever kind of sausage you want. This is a sausage that I made with fennel and chili and garlic. The Romanians use a lot of garlic. The Hungarians and Romanians use a ton of garlic in their cooking. So my dad had really bad breath growing up the whole time. I'm still dealing with the emotional stress of that. Okay, I'm going to remove some of this stuff out of the way because now I'm going to make some dumplings to go into it. I promised you dumplings. I have 12 minutes and 39 seconds left. You think I could knock out dumplings in that amount of time? Should I try? All right, I'm gonna put all this stuff in Kevin's way so that he can deal with it later when he does his amazing food. And while this is simmering, I mean, that's pretty, like, already, I'm pretty excited about this, right? Like, all those beautiful chilies cooking up, all that great broth and the sausage and the broccoli, and I can see the chilies cooking up in here. Now you're a paprikash fan already, right? I hope so. Because I've been team paprikash ever since I first laid eyes on it. All right, here we go. Let's try to make some dumplings. I have some tarragon right here. I like the flavor that the tarragon adds to the dumplings and how it really kind of like interacts with the richness of the Tabasco and the paprikash base. And a lot of people with tarragon, they think it's like a very light, delicate herb and it should only be served with like lobster or crab or whatever. But I like using it for more flavor-forward foods. So I'm going to chop some of that up. I'm going to put it in a bowl with some flour and some ricotta. I'm being very serious about the measurements here. A couple eggs, maybe a little more flour, and maybe a little more ricotta. And I'll start to stir that around, and a little bit of salt, and a little bit of baking powder so that when I cook the dumplings later, they kind of rise up. And I'll season my water with some salt here too and bring that up to a simmer. Doesn't this just make you want to like go home and find your cat and sit on the couch with a warm blanket?
Chef, do you serve this at both of your restaurants?
Actually, we've served it in the past at the restaurants. They're not currently on the menu, but I think that the paprikash is gonna make a comeback pretty soon. I was gonna kind of wait to see what everyone's reaction was today before I made any rash decisions. And you see this dough coming together? I'm just gonna lightly mix it. You see, I'm kind of like just cutting the spatula into it. I don't want to really, I don't want to like move it around too much, or it's going to get really tough. And the dumplings should be like as light as dumplings. So I don't want to overmix. So now it's not even really together yet, but I'm going to put it on the counter here. And I'm just going to start to like cover my hands in flour and just start to like fold it over into a dough just till it comes together. Boom, done. All right, then I can take it and kind of cut it up into little logs here that, you see how this is just like, it's kind of like a biscuit dough in a way. It hasn't really formed yet, and that's exactly where you want it. Ooh, that is looking good. That's going to be really tasty. All right, I'm going to roll this into logs. It's just kind of formed, and if it falls apart, I can kind of like form it just a little bit more. Bring that dough together just a little more. And that's better to do that than to over mix. And now you can see this really pretty log, this dumpling log. And then I'll take a knife, I'll cut some of these guys off. Man, I wish I used to make this with my dad, but he was an interesting guy. He would like to eat really soggy turkey sandwiches and fry fish, and that's pretty much all we ever cooked together. And that was really interesting because cooking for me with my grandmother when I was growing up was like what I like to do. When I was 7 years old, I was already preheating the oven. And yes, things caught on fire regularly. But eventually, the cooking kind of really just became natural, and it's something that I've done my entire life. And I really love it. Okay, so I have salted water. I'm going to go into the water with the dumplings, and they are going to start to float. And I could even, if I wanted to, take just pieces with my hand like that. You see, you don't have to overthink it. This is all like really fun, easy to do stuff. I don't like to get too serious with it. Let me get a little taste on here. Ooh, that's tasting good. I'm going to season that with some salt. I'm excited about Kevin's cooking demo. I like soul food. He's making California soul food. And he was telling me all about how he makes vegetarian gumbo, vegan gumbo. Sorry, am I giving away all am I stealing your thunder right now? All right, good. Okay, I got 5 minutes and 36 seconds left. My dumplings have started to float. You see how good those look? They told me I wasn't allowed to feed any of you guys, and I don't know how I feel about that just yet. I want to feed you. I want you guys to taste this. All right, so the dumplings come from the water. I'm going to drain off all that extra water and put them into some olive oil. And let those start to get a little golden brown. Meanwhile, you're going to video like this huge mess that I'm making right now? That is not cool. All right. So I have now sour cream. Just when you thought the paprikash couldn't get any better. We're going to go ahead and put some sour cream in there. And that's kind of like when you think about curry, right? It's always like spice blends toasted up in oil with some kind of broth and then some kind of like creamy aspect usually, right? And I mean, at least for like a Southeast Asian curry, like a Thai curry, which are some of my favorites. And so this is not that much different. It's just different types of those similar ingredients going in. So instead of coconut milk, we're putting sour cream. And instead of curry paste, we're using different kinds of paprika. The smoky paprika, the sweet paprika, the Tabasco, the whole chilies. And it just keeps adding more and more and more beautiful layers to the dish. Okay, now that I've gotten every one of my tools dirty, I need to go back to the vault over here to get another one. Emily's like, I'm not surprised you're dirtying up all the dishes. All right, look at that. Oh, sorry. Look at that. Doesn't that look great? Okay. Really pretty dumplings here, getting all golden brown. The paprikash has come together. You don't have to strain it. You don't have to do anything. It's got all that great onions and garlic and stuff in there. And then just dump those guys in. And now I have 2 minutes and 44 seconds to stand here and tell you how good this smells and how delicious it is. And I'm gonna just like keep some on the side, so after the demo, if you guys just happen to find a pot of paprikash sitting around, feel free to take a little bite.
Do we have any questions, since we do have 2.5 minutes?
This is like when I wish I had Paul Prudhomme's accent, so I could like describe this dish in his accent and be like, oh, this is real good. But it just sounds weird when I do it. Yeah, any questions, guys? Yes, sir. Oh, well, I would take this and I would like put it on a plate in a bowl. Yes, exactly. I think that this dish particularly, it's just yearning to be served as like a stew all together. And I feel like if I was to like start fancying up, like lining up the dumplings in a single file line or something like that, I'd get struck by lightning. So my favorite way to serve it would be like in a pot like this on the table with a big ladle and a bunch of empty bowls. Oh my gosh. No wonder you guys aren't asking any questions. I haven't finished the demo yet. I have all of these scallions right here, and I'm just going to pop those in and stir that up. And that adds like I think a really great fresh oniony bite to the dish. Well, Kevin, good luck doing your demo. There's all this stuff all over the place. I'm giving you an out. This is your chance. You got 44 seconds to decide if you should run out the back door or not. Well, I appreciate you guys all coming. Oh, yes, one more. Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, it soaks up all that gravy, so it becomes like really juicy and delicious. But the char, I think, gives it like, lets it stand up to all of the really strong pepper flavor in this dish, because the gravy alone is like really rich. So when you get that broccoli bite, it's got that char to it, and it really kind of pops out with flavor. And I just toss it in a little bit of olive oil and cook it in the broiler in the oven until it chars up, and that's it. Well, now I'm 5 minutes behind time.
Seconds.
Seconds. All right.
Big difference.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you to Tabasco for sponsoring this event and giving me such delicious products to work with. Thank you guys.
All right. So Chef Keith is asking me to ask lots of questions. You're in luck. I'm a journalist, so I get to do this every day, harass people with questions. First, one thing I want to ask, just being from the South, do you consider it slightly sacrilegious to have a vegan gumbo?
Wait, say that again?
Do you consider it a little bit sacrilegious to have a vegan gumbo?
If you had some New Orleans in here, they'll think my cuisine is sacrilegious. But it's funny because I just did what the original creators did, took images or took things that they're used to and created it with new ingredients, right? You have the food following the South to the Caribbean from the Africa to the Caribbean to the South. Why do I gotta be in California and go back to New Orleans cuisine, right? So it's like just taking the food that I grew up on with my granny and doing it the California way.
For the record, it's absolutely delicious. There is nothing lost from not having fat back, like pig fat back in that recipe.
Well, I kind of like for instance, like I make collard greens, and you're used to having the ham hock or the smoked turkey neck. So to pull the meat out, and I don't have a vegan restaurant, but to pull the meat out, I take neutral oil and I smoke it with apple wood chips. So it gives it the same flavor as if you had the meat in it, right? So, and that's what I do. And like the vegan gumbo, it was just an option. Like when you see the gumbo, when you finish, you can add meat to it on the pickup if you want. You got the prawns, you got the sausage, and I recommend that the chicken be cooked already and just cut off the bone and add it to it. But to start the gumbo, I have a stock here that I do with root vegetables to bring sweetness, like celery root, fennel, charred onions, carrots, and I let it cook down. I let it cook for 3 to 4 hours. Hey now.
So what are we starting off with? I saw some
So
olive oil.
You saw some olive oil, some shallots, some Fresnos, some garlic to start off with. And he has a mess over here, so I'm gonna come back this way. Salt, kind of get it sweating. I'll add in some chili powder. And for soul food, right, there's ingredients in here that my grandmother would be like, what the hell are you, excuse me, that don't belong in there. Miso, right? So I do an oxtail at the restaurant that has a lot of attention, and it has miso and soy in it, like in the braise. So my granny would be like, that don't belong in there. If you go in the restaurant, like it's so many different ingredients from worlds of flavors, right? That usually wouldn't even be in a traditional soul food kitchen or in the house or shit in New Orleans. But here we go. Keep asking questions.
I mean, you're doing great, but okay.
And so, go ahead.
Tell me how, with soul food, how do you kind of put this California twist on it? I know you were saying that there's no need to go backwards to New Orleans for flavors.
Well, it's just taking dishes that I'm familiar with, and I put it this trailblazing a new path to an old destination, right? Just carving my own path. So I already put the chili powder in there. This is a spice mix that I do with paprika, smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, cayenne that I add into it. Get that going.
feel like a big takeaway is to invest in paprika, smoked, sweet. I'm seeing a pattern coming here between
Yes.
two very different dishes.
Yeah, so, yeah. And that's just it. You incorporate flavors from everywhere. Paprika's been one of them. Everybody uses it. Get that going. I add the stock.
This is veggie stock, right?
This is a veggie stock. Root vegetables. Root vegetables.
So I think you've already said we've got peppers in there and okra.
Peppers, okra, scallion, and said that already. Y'all know this is my first time, right? I'm not. He made it very, very hard.
He's doing great, right?
But okra, scallion, Fresno chilies, spices, garlic, and I'll let this come to a simmer.
Only some heat to this dish. Do you add that later on while we're cooking?
Well, no, with the spices, you have the cayenne and the Fresno chilies,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So while this is getting going, I'll work on the fritters.
I was thinking of this specialty sauce I got to try.
Yes.
That one, that is such a clean,
So
fresh
this-
flavor.
So this is it's what I chose to make instead of a hush puppy. So it's taking black eyed peas because it's essentially on the soul food menu. It's taking black eyed peas and just doing it a different way. So I hydrate them overnight for 24 hours, and I lay them out and allow them to sprout, right? And then once I do that, I take them, add the black eyed peas. Don't want to make a mess here.
Late.
Huh?
Too late.
So it just gives it more of a, like, that earthiness, like a plant, like eating a raw plant. You ever go to the farmer's market and just pick and eat things? So it's just getting into that. I'll add onion. Ginger. Water. Chili flake. It's gonna be loud, sorry.
So hush puppies traditionally corn-based.
Hush puppies is traditionally corn flour, yes.
So what gave you the idea to use black-eyed peas, which is also, a southern or soul food staple, but
Well, after you blend it, it comes out like this, right? Let's get rid of the noise. So then it comes out like this, and we'll fry it. So you asked a question about it?
yeah, I was just wondering what gave you the idea to use black-eyed peas instead of corn flour.
It's about cleaning the food up. It's about staying traditional, like having that fritter, but cleaning it up.
Healthier.
Much more healthy, much more California. I keep saying that. All right. Maybe if I get a chance to do a second one, it'll be a little more entertaining because I look like all you guys are bored right now.
They're watching very
So-
carefully.
I'll take this, test fry. Go ahead.
Oh. Okay. Chef, tell us what you're doing right here. Or actually, we have a question. I would say
Yes. So it's a riff off of a Nigeria okra stew, right? There's no Wait, what's your question again? Yes, it is, because okra translates to gumbo. So it's just a translation of words.
And that's from Nigerian?
From Africa, West Africa, yes. This particular dish is from Nigeria, but the translation is just from Africa, okra to gumbo.
You know, I think
Don't
that
talk about me right here. I'm standing right here.
oh,
So in the South, they use a roux traditionally, like flour, butter. In this case, it is the okra that's the thickener, right? So I'll take this, I'll cook it, I'll take half of it and blend it just to bring out all the pigment, and then that thickens it. No. It's me and you right here. They don't even exist. Like you're making this that much easier for me. Thank you. Right? So keep going. We're two idiots right here. Let's go. But no, you're not. That's a great question though, right? So now that the grease is hot, now I'm starting to make a mess. Please sponsor me again. I'll do much better.
oh.
Well, that term is before me. I call it a fritter. So, but it's more along the lines of a falafel.
I've heard a story about hush puppies, but I don't know if it's true, Chef.
Well, go for it.
I heard that they used to, it would be scraps that would be left over from the table, and this is going back to antebellum South, and you could form it into little balls, and sometimes it would be given to the dogs to hush them.
Oh,
I
like
don't-
hush puppy?
Yeah, like hush.
Wow.
Back in like middle school, someone please fact check me because I'm not sure if it's true,
You know what? I kind of like that story.
right? But then all the humans found out, oh my God, it's delicious. Why are we giving this to the dogs?
Kind of like oxtail, right?
Yes, exactly, the waste products. And I think we have another question from the audience.
So I like to take opportunities just to do things differently. So it was just trying it, going back to the original nature of a gumbo and just keeping it okra. It doesn't thicken as much. No. It's a little bit, yes. So I don't know. How does that look? Does it look as good as his? So I won't be able to blend it, but I do have a finished product right here that we'll be able to take a look at, but I'm gonna plate these first. And they really can't try nothing?
You could like just go into the kitchen for a minute.
Wow. Can I have a skillet? Thank you. Now I'm starting to get nervous. Damn, that smells good.
And this is on the menu at
Alta, yes.
Yes. Can
This is.
Can you tell us a bit about the restaurant? It's been a little over a year, so happy anniversary.
Thank you. This one's right here. Yeah, so Alta Adams, what would you like to know?
Well, you and Daniel Patterson opened it.
So I like the introduction. I started with Daniel Patterson and Roy Choi in 2015. I started off as a kitchen manager and worked my way up to R&D chef and director of operations. So I was very instrumental in the expansion from LA to the Bay Area. Unfortunately, Loco winded up closing at some point, and Daniel brought me over to his company, Alta, shortly thereafter. And I moved up to the Bay Area. And from there, I had to start back at the bottom as a line cook helper. But I was having conversations about ideas and concepts. So it was about, I pitched the idea to him, and he came back to me not even a year later. It's like, do you want to do it? And I told him, hell yeah. So I moved back home to LA and we opened Alta, um, which is a California soul food. Yes. So this is frying up. This is simmering. You got to keep asking questions because, like, I'm a baby in this area. I just like getting in the kitchen, cooking and feeding people. So, yes. So because the original gumbo originally is vegan, it didn't pick up the meat and things until it came over to America. So, and I just wanted to, because it's a soul food place, and I like to feed everyone. So I like to find ways to where everyone can come into the restaurant and actually get a dish, and don't feel like they are settling. You know, if you're vegan, you come in there and it's just some random dish. So I like to put all like effort into whatever it is. Like right, so you come in, you have a barbecue cauliflower, or you have the black eyed pea fritters, which is truly over frying right now. So it's like just putting that effort in for every guest that come in, and and then the gumbo is like it can be add meat can be added to it.
Is that an option at the restaurant to add
Yes,
meat? Okay.
yes. No, it's not. So it's not a vegan restaurant. It just happens. So if there's a like the collard greens I was saying, if there's a way in which I can keep it authentic, or as close to authentic as possible, and, oh there you go. I was talking about you earlier. I hope you wasn't in here. As authentic as possible, and make it vegan, then I would, yes. So like I was saying, the collard greens, I smoked the oil instead of using smoked meat. Now I gotta go over here to this side. Thanks, brother. Yes. So I will plate these.
Tell us what's in
The
that
green
sauce.
sauce, no, I would have to kill you.
Fair enough.
So no, it is again that, and that's vegan as well, right? This is a herb dipping sauce, spicy herb dipping sauce that has cilantro, parsley, California olive oil, lemon juice, serrano peppers, and garlic. If I could pass this bottle around, I would. And then from there, I'll saute some vegetables that's been blanched already. So these has been blanched. Get these going.
All right, Chef, you're not going to like this, but just about 4 minutes.
Oh, I'm plating.
Okay. I mean, I was going to say the not hush puppies are ready. Do you call them hush puppies or fritters?
No, I call them fritters.
You call them fritters. Okay.
Yes. Call them what they are. So at the restaurant, I use a Japanese brown rice. That was a bad idea. Yeah.
And you said it's Japanese brown rice?
Yes.
How is this different from standard brown rice?
From Japan.
Oh, okay. Gladly so.
I heard that. So it's 3 of us now? And, you know, I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather, and this was the only thing in the house. So whenever I finish a dish, for me, I use Tabasco. Always been traditional, but they have a lot going on now. And like this was my favorite for this dish, the garlic. What is it, garlic cayenne? Since it's already cayenne in the dish. And I just do a little splash. And then over the top with some palm oil. And there you go. Vegan gumbo. Damn. How does it look? Great. Well, any questions? I have 1 minute and 40 seconds. Hold on.
Oh, got another question.
Say that again. How I source. Like I do doctor table, I do farm to table. I work closely with the farms myself or farmers markets. I try to stay away from purveyors. I also work with fishermen. It's very seasonal. The menu is very seasonal. So if it's not in season, it's pretty much not on the menu. That even goes for the drinks. Like the bar, cocktails have to go with the season. So it's just like, that's all California for me. We have the luxury of changing seasons, and I tend to do that. Any more questions? I haven't gotten to a calorie count, right? I'm hoping that it falls in line with it, but I believe so. Like the vegan gumbo, it doesn't have the flour, the butter, the meat, so I'm quite sure this calorie count is much lower than a traditional gumbo. The same with the fritters. It's just beans, no breading, so I'm quite sure that the calories are a little less than the flour and the cornmeal as a traditional hush puppy. The green sauce, California olive oil, and just herbs and peppers. So, of course. Because it's about refining and cleaning up what we know as soul food, but try to keep it as authentic as possible as far as flavors. I don't know why we get them, but they're here. they're definitely here. And gluten-free, like I've never, like LA, I've never, like you come into, the customers come into a restaurant and it's not talking about anybody. And it's like, you have so many different reports of allergy here, gluten here, this, vegan. Like, sometimes I get things like, I just don't like this. And then even it's just like, can you take this off because I don't like it, right? So, and if you want to survive in LA, like you got to be conscious of that, right? When you're creating a dish, or you're gonna find yourself altering your dish in service, right? So I'm conscious of that. So when I go into preparing a dish or making a dish, I'm aware of it, and I create it to where I don't have to make as many changes, right?
Right, I think we're out of time. A big hand for Chef Keith Corbin.
Thank you.
The inspiration for the chicken masakhan came from my travel in Israel and filming with Chef Nofa Tamna. It's a classic Arabic dish that we've adapted for the American kitchen. In this version, we're using boneless, skinless chicken thighs, which we season with chicken bouillon instead of salt and pepper on both sides. You start by searing the chicken in olive oil until it's golden, then flipping it and searing it on the other side. When it's slightly golden on both sides, remove from the pot. Add about 4 or 5 onions that have been peeled, cut in half, and sliced, and saute until they are wilted and slightly golden. Add the chicken back to the pot over the onions. Add olive oil to the pot to cover the chicken fully. Depending on how much chicken you're cooking, you're gonna need a lot of oil. Add spices, star anise, cinnamon stick, bay leaf, cardamom pods, and allspice. Cover and cook on a low heat for about 2 hours until the chicken is fork tender. At this point, you're ready to plate. Take the flatbread, brush lightly with Hellmann's or Best Foods mayonnaise, and put on the grill for just a few seconds to get the bread nice and moist. Place the bread on your serving dish. Shred the chicken with some of the onion and some of the olive oil and put it over the bread. Top the chicken with a fresh herb salad made of parsley leaves, cilantro, mint, basil, thinly sliced semi-spicy peppers such as red jalapeno or serrano, and tossed lightly with Hellmann's lemon za'atar dressing and a touch of salt. So here is our final dish, chicken masakhan. Enjoy!
Watermelon and barbecue are a match made in heaven. Here's how to make a delicious barbecue sauce infused with the sweet, fruity flavor of watermelon. To make the watermelon barbecue sauce, in a medium sauce pot, combine the pureed watermelon, tomato paste, molasses, dried mustard, smoked paprika, apple cider vinegar, coffee, and salt. Bring this to a boil, turn down the heat, and reduce the sauce by 2/3 or until it's a nice thick consistency. You can use this tasty watermelon sauce on any of your favorite barbecue dishes. Now I'm going to show you how this barbecue sauce adds a special summery sweetness to everyday baked beans. Preheat an oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat a 2-quart heavy sauce pot on medium heat. Add the bacon and render until it's about halfway crispy. Add the onions and sweat until translucent, and then add the garlic and saute until aromatic. Add the navy beans, which have been soaked overnight and strained. Add the watermelon barbecue sauce to the bean and bacon mixture and stir to combine. Heat on medium heat until bubbly. Cover the pot and place it into the oven for 2 hours. Stir after 2 hours and continue cooking in the oven covered for an additional 3 to 4 hours. Remove the beans from the oven and stir. The beans should be tender with a nice thick sauce. And there it is, watermelon baked beans garnished with fresh watermelon. Serve this great dish on your barbecue menu. This hearty, healthy, and delicious salad features 2 Mediterranean favorites, farro and grapes. The nutty whole grains and savory feta cheese combined with the fresh grapes makes this dish a satisfying meal. First, prepare your farro and set aside to cool. Next, we'll prepare the vinaigrette. In a mixing bowl, add the red wine vinegar, Dijon mustard, honey, salt, and pepper, and mix with a whisk to combine. Slowly drizzle in the olive oil, whisking constantly to form an emulsified vinaigrette. Season to taste and set aside. Now we're going to put our salad together. In a large bowl, combine the farro, red and green California grapes, pistachios, mint, parsley, and arugula. Season with salt and pepper. Toss the ingredients with the vinaigrette, and when combined, gently fold in the feta cheese. There you have it, Faro salad with red grapes, pistachios, and feta cheese dressed with a classic red wine vinaigrette. This salad is great served on its own or paired with a sandwich or an entree. Find this recipe and more on ciaprochef.com/grapes.